Welcome back to Kairu Rider, where size matters. Just ask my ex. You know that old cliche, size matters, and my wife rides an SV650, which is a beginner bike in the States or a first big bike in most European countries. And I don't like that, because I gotta say, I try not to ride her bike because it makes me hate my bike. And let me be clear, this is an amazing bike. This is probably the best bike I've ever owned, with one major flaw. It's fast. So if I want to have fun on these twisty mountain roads, I'm in second gear going over 100. That's kind of ridiculous because there's 4 more gears after that. Now if I'm sitting out on the Kosokudor, or the Japanese interstate with cruise control on going like 120, yeah, this bike's great. It's not too strung out, but her bike just as comfortably does those speeds and with barely more RPMs. And it's not like I need tons of power to overtake. If I'm already going like 130, I don't need extra power to overtake. So with this bike, I have more weight because of the extra power and worse fuel economy because of the extra power, but it's power I'll never need and almost never use. Like, I've ridden this bike in A mode, which is the absolute power mode, and I've ridden it in standard, which is reasonable. But I tend to go towards B because it's more fun. Bikes are fun at their limits. So if you've got this ridiculous power, and I know there's way more powerful bikes than this out there, but when you have that power, when can you actually use it outside of a racetrack? Like, somebody commented that you're not a track rider, so the MT-07 has great suspension. And that's not entirely true. Like, even for these roads, its weak suspension will show. But that kind of brings me to the point of this video. I knew going into this that I didn't want more power than my Street Triple. I convinced myself to get this bike because the power to weight would be not that far off of the Street Triple. And it's not that far off if I keep it in restricted B mode. But the real reason I got this bike is because of the features, traction control, and drive modes. And yes, the Trident has it, but you know, that's just one, and it's a brand new thing. And so why do I have to buy a big bike to get these premium features? And Yamaha figured this out a few years ago with the MT-09. There's the cheap and not perfect MT-09, and then there's the slightly more SP. So if you're worried about the customer basis, give us an MT-07 and an MT-07 SP. And you see that the technology is there because A, it exists, and B, the R7 exists, which I assume will come to Japan in the year 2027, because the MT-07 is finally going to come at the end of July 2021, almost a year after the European launch. But the big thing that this has, that even if we were to argue, well, the Trident's a good choice, or the GSX, which is definitely just as crazy as this, cruise control. A lot of people say, oh, you don't need cruise control. I've never had cruise control. Okay, well, that doesn't mean it's not good. I have a friend who's a double amputee from birth, and guess what? He's not sitting there like, you don't need 2 legs. I've never had 2 legs. He lives a great life. He loves his life. He owns a Can-Am. Wow, knee down. But he loves his Can-Am, but he does wish he had 2 legs sometimes. Hiking would be easier, and cruise control would be nice. But the point being, that bike that just passed me is the Honda CBR 250RR. And I'm not going that fast, but tell you what, he can get his knee down and with those skinny tires go way faster on this road than I can with this bike. Forget the fact that I've got luggage and it's not an MT-09. The MT-09 would not keep up with him on this road because of just the size of the wheels and the ability to flick it side to side. He can't have cruise control. There's no way. There's aftermarket ones if you're interested in voiding your warranty, and you can rebuild your suspension. But at that point, it's like you're spending double what the bike's worth just because companies won't make you a bike that does it. And as much as I'm unhappy with Triumph, thank you, Triumph, for making the Trident, because it seems to be selling pretty good. So good that when people say it sells like hotcakes, we need to figure out how well the hotcakes were selling. You know, it's a great bike if it's reliable for you. But where are the Japanese manufacturers on that quality? And yes, you could say Honda does it, but Honda's not ride-by-wire. And you can tell it with the traction control. And the MT-07, it's fine for what it is, but it's not great. Like, it's just that the engine is so amazing and the seating position is so supermoto comfy. But the suspension, the brakes, they're just enough. Cruise control, I bought this bike for a very specific, it is the smallest motor that has cruise control as standard, and it's not small. I like cruise control. Getting out of Tokyo on the Kosaka Door, I love my cruise control, but there are no smaller bikes with cruise control, and that's really the only reason I go for such a big bike. And I've seen many people commenting the same thing. Like, if the Tracer 700 ever came to Japan but also had cruise control, that would have been the easy choice. Such an easy choice that if for whatever reason they charged the same price as they do for this, I'd have bought it if it had cruise control. The Tenere is more expensive than this, the Tenere 700, and people buy it because they don't want that power. And most of them don't go off-road, and when I talk to them here, their reasoning is very simple. The Tracer 700 isn't in Japan. The Tracer 900, it's a lot. Now, if I was riding everywhere with this bike, two up with my wife, pretending she didn't already have a bike, or if I was riding everywhere with the top box full and two panniers full, first off, where am I going with that much stuff? That's how I rode across the States for 3 months, and I didn't use half of what I brought. So there you go. In that situation, yeah, I'd need that power, because I had a 07 Tiger 1050. With all the luggage off, that bike was lose your life fast. With all the luggage on, it was fast enough for American speed limits. Like, to be comfortable at those speeds. Yes, I could have done it on a V-Strom 650, but it would have been more work, and the weight would have been a bigger deal. Don't get me wrong, this bike is wonderful. This bike is lovely. It's fun. It's not a bad bike. But if it weighed less and made less power, I'd be happier. I'd be much happier. Like you'll notice, we are once again joined by my new tattooed mistress, because I don't need to put this up as an admission in court of how fast one must be going to enjoy these roads. And speed limit, look there, it's 40. And let's say I'm going 40 for sure. But even if you don't care about the speed limit, and let's pretend you're one of those people who comments, we ride for fun, not to survive. Well, guess what? Look at that. You make one slip, one mistake, you might slide between those gates if they don't rip you up. And you're going off a cliff, dropping at least 50 meters. Now, if I crash at 40 or 50 or whatever, yeah, okay, it's gonna hurt, but the gate should stop me. If I crash at 100, this is where I die. I'm wearing climb riding gear, I'm wearing an Arai helmet, I'm wearing great riding shoes, I'm wearing a Hit Air airbag vest, and using this bike to its absolute limit where it would be fun, it's perfect ride or crash and die. And so, if I could convince myself I didn't care about cruise control, I'd probably be getting rid of this for the MT-07 and just spending so much on suspension. But, hey Yamaha, you know how you have that new R7? Well, fuse that with the MT-07 and give us an MT-07 SP. Between you watching and me, let's just talk about the fact that MC Cruise fits an MT-07, including the new one. So give me an MT-07 SP, I'll void my own warranty on cruise control, and we'll all live happily ever after. But this bigger is better idea, the fact that, oh, I get the MT-09 because the 07's a beginner bike, you're never gonna use the MT-09 to its limit without risking your life, or, and this is important, everyone else's. I don't care what you want to ride like on a racetrack. It's your life, it's your bike, it's your whatever fun times. Go for it. But the problem then becomes, this is a road, a public road. There are cyclists. There are other vehicles. like that. There are cyclists. There are other vehicles. I come around a corner at 90 and the speed limit's 40. Guess what? It's not about me. If I kill myself, that's because I'm an a-hole. If I kill someone else, I'm a piece of garbage. How dare you risk other people's lives? But that's what the manufacturers have decided. You need life-risking speed or none of the features. I get the argument that with such a small 650, 700cc bike, you would say you don't actually need the traction control. You don't actually need the drive modes. And the drive modes, I'll get that, yeah. Like, use all the power or loosen up on your wrist. Like this one, I don't really care about the drive modes except for the fact that I don't want all the power. But a bike below 800 cc's, I wouldn't need the drive modes. But the traction control, when you finish this video, I want you to go on YouTube. Well, you're already on YouTube. But after this video, I want you to search MT-07 crashes. How many of them are just in roundabouts spinning out? You know, I was on this bike the other day with my traction control on. There was a bit of rain. Only a bit, but I was in Tokyo traffic. And I felt the traction control straighten me out on one quick moment. My wife's SV doesn't have traction control. She's also a more responsible person than me, so she's not going to do dumb things. But I wasn't even riding that dumb. The thing is, in the rain or on a gravelly road, traction control is a much likable thing. Or the idea that you need a big bike to go touring. I rode her bike for 8.5 hours straight. The only issue was the garbage seat that we're planning to replace. I would get her bike and ride it everywhere if it had the cruise control. If it had, you know, the amenities for luggage. I don't need a big heavy bike for panniers. I just need the ability to mount panniers without customizing and voiding a warranty. And for some reason, manufacturers don't get that. They don't see that option. And they're like, well, here's soft panniers for commuting. I'm not going to commute from Tokyo to Hokkaido. I want some real luggage options that don't require endless customization. Or like my top box being over the seat, because I don't need all that weight way up there and out there, because that affects the handling on this bike. So what does that do to an MT-07 that's already wheelie prone, even if you don't want it to be, and it weighs 30 kilo less than this bike? So that's my ranting about bigger is better. It's actually not. And anyone who's honest does not need more than 700 cc's. The MT-07 is a perfect bike for the road with its engine, but almost only in the engine. And the thing is, a bike is more than just an engine. And I gotta think Yamaha has recapped the cost of that engine's development by now. It's the best-selling bike in Europe. It's one of the best-selling bikes in the world of that size. You can give us better suspension. Thanks for the brake upgrade. From what I hear, it's good, but still can't ride that bike here in Japan. But give us better suspension. Give us at least one stage traction control. Cruise control as an extra option. And that's the thing. This one-size-fits-all mentality is silly. Give us one bike that fits all, and give us the catalog, which you do. You just don't add a lot of the features that people want. Just add the cruise control option. You make cruise control, you make great cruise control. Just make it an option. I don't know. That's what that is. You can feel free to disagree or question my sexuality in the comments, as many have. But till next time, whatever you've got, ride it safe. Till then, this has been Kairyu Rider.